polite way of leaving, because that's not easy either. People are lonely. People are lonely, and in general, they want you to be there, and they want you to stay there, and they'll do all kinds of things to keep you there. And that's like 8 out of 10 people
That's sad.
in their homes. I'm talking about here, not in a rehab center. They want out of there. Then that's different. If you show up at somebody's home in the countryside, you don't see enough people. You don't see enough people. When I went to that native community this 3 or 4 weeks ago. Jeez, we went. Susan always bought these 2 or 3 people in this native community winter coats every year. So when I was up there, I thought, God, I gotta do that. Hardly any cost or anything.
Oh.
So we go over there. And we take a coat to this one person who is just absolutely sweet. Susan was always best friends with. Got RP. And she hadn't been out. Coat wouldn't fit, so we said, well, let's just go over to it's the Hudson Bay store, right? I mean, from the 1800s, it's Hudson Bay store. And she said, you mean me? You mean we get to go to the store? Woman hadn't been out of the house in weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. No sidewalk, muddy street. And there's all versions of that here too. So you really have people desperate for anybody, even you guys. You got it. So anyway, closing is not a simple thing. Normally you just summarize what you did and say, we're going to do this next. But also remember, I told you in the opening, it's very important to say how long you're expecting to be there. So if you start out by saying, we got an hour, so we need to get going, blah, 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 that helps. So,
Part of your introduction might be, it's nice to meet you, Mr. James, kind of thing. Today's appointment or whatever is going to take about an hour, and this is what we're going to probably
that's
focus
fine.
on.
Yeah.
That's
Or any
when you
natural
go-
way. If you can work it in a
Step
natural way,
forward.
it's easier.
Right.
After you've done this and you're talking and they say, you sit down and say, okay, let's get started here. I got a bunch of questions, but and it looks like we got about 45 minutes left, so we need to get going. Instead of making it a big deal, it's easiest just to work it in something.
Right,
The less
so-
formal you sound, the less formal you sound about rules,
Mhm.
better off you are. And it's really cool because the second or third time you go there, it's going to be entirely different. By then, they'll be welcoming, 99% of them, 90%. They'll want you to come. Yeah, forget all this formality. By then you'll know, they'll start trusting you. Then it's a whole different ballgame. Then you relax, look forward to it, blah, blah. That's cool.
I think I missed step 3 because 4 is the closing. 4 was
Yeah, 3 is the body. We skipped over because that's the
Oh.
hard part, and that's what we're going to talk about.
step tricky.
All right. So now let's talk about the really important thing that we're really doing this for, and that's the interview itself. I got it up here on the front. I got my. If you don't have it with you, I've got my thumb drive here with the file on it. If somebody wants it,
Can I borrow that from you, please? Thank you.
it's called.
Jen, can I have over here?
It's called. It's under Prink, as in principles folder, and it's called, I think it's called Interview Form 2009, something Form 2009. And it's on the, and for those of you who can see up here, and those of you in TV land, it should be up on the display, right?
Pat, do you know what page it is on the book?
Interview form 2009?
I'm looking at page 31, just to go along.
Yeah, it's in the book too. But the one in the book is a tad different than this one. This is called 2009 because it's been modified a tad, not that much. Okay, so,
Also in your outline, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say on page 9 of the big 29-page
okay.
outline.
Okay. It is
Starting on 9, there are lots of notes about how to do this.
Yeah, it's all there. Well, we're gonna talk about that second. I put them I put guidelines first, and then I want to put the form down in there. But I want to talk about the form first before I talk about the guidelines, because you'll have a little more concrete knowledge about what the form is and what the interview is. Then let's talk about the guidelines. So skip to the form.
Form, that's,
The interview form,
okay,
the interview assessment form.
got it.
I sent it to you with the assessment a
Yep.
couple weeks ago.
You don't, there you go.
But let's talk quickly about the theory here. All we're going to do here is compare what people did before they had a vision problem, what they're doing now, and do a little mathematical subtraction, and then what they did, subtracting what they now do, is what your plan's going to be. So under every area, say reading, we're going to figure out, okay, what kind of stuff did you do in the past? Specifically, what kind of stuff did you read? How much was it? What books, what magazines, blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to say, have you tried anything now? Do you have enough vision to do this? I got 2 sections in here. One is under that topic. One is no vision, no functional vision. The other one is functional vision. So you use one or the other depending on the person's vision. So let's just say they do have some vision. You go in there and you figure out, okay, they were reading these kinds of things before, they're reading these kinds of things now, and they're having these problems reading these kinds of things now. That, the difference between what they could do, what they're doing now, and the problems they're having, that is what the service plan will be. It's simple, eh? But,
Anybody else in the dump drive?
huh?
I was commenting on if anybody else needs, but sorry.
So to do that, you need like 3 levels of questioning about the present and 3 levels of questioning about the past. And I don't think I've got this in your notes, and I don't. It's in your reading, but you need to pay attention to this one. Every area is going to require you to find out 3 levels of information about the past and about the present.
So past versus present.
Just wait a minute, wait till everybody gets this thing.
Can you go back to the chart?
Anybody else need it?
Just write it down.
No, I just want to get what you just said. You said that every area we go through is going to require us to find 3 levels of information.
That's right, about the past and about the present. And it works like this, I'll tell you, right? It works just like this. Let's say you need first to know what. We'll talk about the past first. We'll talk about reading, since that's what I use as an example. So under reading, we need to know first, did you read, or question something like this? Did you read much? Was reading important to you? I've got questions written out here, and I'll read them over for you. They're not in this form. You have to make up your own question. You have to just fill out the form. If it had all the questions on it, it would be so long that it'd be hard to deal with. Maybe you need it at first, though. Anyway, it's like that. You have, the first question is, did you read much, or some version of that? The second question, and that requires, what kind of answer does that require?
Open.
Yes, no. That tells you nothing. So if they say yeah, if they say no, then it's a moot point, right? For now, because our major first step is not to take people where they weren't, but to get them where they were, and then if they want to go further, that's another thing. But our job is to get them where they were. So if they say yes, then the next step is, can you describe that? The word describe is absolutely necessary. Can you describe what kinds of things you read?
Hello?
And you may have to lead them because they don't know all the things you're thinking. What you're really thinking is, did they read magazines? Did they read? I put a few listed a few on the form to help you. Could they read newspapers? Did they read print that small? Did they read magazines? Did they read books? Were they into fiction? Did they read novels? How much did they read? You push them to get that kind of information in this description. Then the next question is an important one too. Okay, we found out that they do. We found out kind of what it is, but now we need to know. Oh, you don't need the third. You don't really need the third level in reading. I'll come back to it. So now we go to the present. So mark yourself. 3 is just put NA. 3 is NA in reading. But I'll call 3. 3 is the details stage. So what it is, did you describe what in the details is the third question. Those are the level.
Details.
Now I'll show you what details means next. All right, so now in the present, it doesn't matter which way you go, present or past first. Matter of fact, I noticed on this form it's half and half, they're all mixed up. So now present. So you now say, okay, do you presently read anything at all? Or have you tried to use your vision to read anything? Yes, no. Same old question. Second one is what then?
Describe what you.
Yeah. Would you please describe what you've tried, what kind of things you've tried to read? And then the third detailed question is what? Did it work? So not did it work, but did you run into problems? What are they? Because now you have an idea of what to attack and you have an idea of how important it is to them. And right away, if they say something like, it's just too taxing. My eyes wear out in 2 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Then you know one of two things. You know that you need to train them on how to read with low vision, or you need to start talking about some kind of an audible book. You got that note now. You've got an approach.
So number 2, we're talking about present, and it's the same format.
Same
What we
same
described,
3 levels.
But only details are being specific to what kind of
That's right.
issues. Okay.
Let's put this in terms of the of kitchen skills. Let's put it in terms of kitchen skills. Now we ask the past questions. And again, you kind of have to think, when you're thinking about kitchen skills, you have to also think about the person's responsibility to others. They live alone. If they don't live alone, though, they commonly have responsibilities for that kind of thing, like cleaning the place or taking care of the food preparation, have children or other adults in the house are taken care of, or whatever. But same 3 questions. 1, before you had this vision loss, did you do any kind of food preparation? Yes, no. Then you say, what?
Describe.
Yeah, can you tell me about it?
What did you cook? What did you use?
Describe what you did, not what.
Okay.
No, not what you use. That's the 3rd level. The
Okay.
2nd level is what kinds of things. Describe what kinds of things you've done, and you're going to get things like, well, I just used a microwave, or I've tried the stovetop, or I use the oven, or I've made this and this and this, and you'll get a good idea of what they're doing now, and you keep leading them to get that information. And then the third, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, so, but you do have to contextualize to an extent, like.
Of course,
Like, because like, what if their wife divorced them?
of course.
Okay.
You have to keep in mind who these people are, what their vocational goal is, what their living goal is, where they're going to be when rehab's over, whether they have responsibilities to others, all that kind of stuff. Then the third level would be, okay, when you did these things, what was the stove like? What kind of a stove was it? Or what was that microwave? What kind of dials did it have? And you're gonna figure out real quickly how well they know these things, how sophisticated the device is, whether it's gas or electric.
Does that kind of help reassure like how accurate the information maybe is? that
Yes,
you're getting
because
to?
it does, exactly. And think about it in terms of computers. You say, okay, have you used computers? Yeah. Tell me about it. Well, I might say something like, well, I did some word processing and I did email. All right, but then you get to the third level and you say, can you tell me what kind of computer you have? What kind of software did you use for these things? Now, you're gonna really know whether it's true, and you're gonna know what program it is you have to work with, what kind of computer, whether it's an old clunker or whether you can use this or that with it. So every one of these areas, all you really have to do is do that 3 question. Did you describe it? And give me the detail. And sit there and shut up and let them talk. Really.
Paul,
And if they're doing the talking, you're really successful.
have you ever seen that TV show House?
Mm-mm.
Well, he's this doctor and he's really mean, and he says that people lie all the time. They always lie. And this sort of sounds like we're trying to really get them to give details because we're suspecting them of lying.
No, that has nothing to do with it.
No?
I can tell you that when I go to I've always believed in, what's the word that Benjamin uses? It escapes me. But basically, I go into a place never ever thinking that someone will lie to me. Because you'll know very quickly. And that's why you do an observation as well. But in a very short order, you'll know. But it's hardly ever lie. It's almost always misperceived.
Okay.
And a great example is, I think I told you when I did that assessment of a young man in a college prep program, I asked him about his clothing care. Did I tell you about that?
Oh, you thought the closet was fixing
He
his
thought the
clothes?
closet did his washing.
Oh, yeah.
And that was no lie. See what I mean? He thought it. He did. And that's usually the case. And then people are in denial still sometimes, so they're in this I don't believe I can do anything stage, so you sort of have to always take all that with a grain of salt. But if you get people talking, man, they want to tell you these stories. They do. But if you sit there and do all the talking, you'll never find out anything. And of course, it's really a problem with some people getting them to talk. But if you run these questions and do it in an almost conversational manner, it's not that hard. So I was intending to go clear through this thing today, but it really takes a lot of time. I don't know if it's necessary. I'll go through the first part of it. Kind of have anyway, but there's a few things at the beginning that I want to discuss in this forum. There's things like, the first thing on is their name, their address, the date. The next thing, though, is you need to find out if they have any other disabilities, basically. Now, that question, this is kind of an abrupt thing at the very first of an interview. You could hold it later if you want to, but you can also ask it in some. I usually ask it in some fashion like this. Do you have any other medical or other conditions that you think interfere with you doing your daily, taking care of yourself or doing your daily, the things you need to do in your daily life, that kind of thing? Do you have any other, say, medical conditions or other things that you think interfere with you doing your daily the things you need to do in your daily life, instead of saying, "Do you have any other disabilities?" Because it really is, it's not whether they have a disability, but it's not whether they have another condition, it's whether that condition is serious enough to cause a problem. You can have diabetes, but it can cause you no problem in terms of your ability to do other things. Or it can cause you a great deal depending on how, far along it is, how bad it is, etc. See what I mean? So it's really kind of the perception of the person. And they'll almost always tell you, and if they don't, you also, what information do you also have about this already?
Like the case file.
You got the case file, so you know if the person has diabetes, for example. So at this point, if this person comes up and you know that the person has diabetes and they say, "I don't have any problem at all," then you very simply say, "Well, I saw in your case file that you're a diabetic person. I just wondered, does that mean you got all that under control and you're really, it's not really in your way?" That kind of follow up. Instead of the other way around, making it the very first question. So that one, the next one's important too. The next one. By the way, what do you say if they say yes? What's the second level?
Describe it.
Yeah, same thing. Describe the problems that cause it.
How about if he go through the describing part, then jump into the details? Should I stop him and?
It depends on what it is, yes. If you need details like, for example, if the person said, "I have difficulty drawing my insulin and giving myself injections," then for sure you need more details. What kind? What kind of details would you need then? Not that I expect you to know all about injections and diabetes, but you'll learn quite a bit about it in FCS when you get a chance.
What kind of equipment are you using? How often do you have to test your blood?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. What instrument are you using to measure your blood sugar? What kind of injection? What kind of syringes? Because then you'll be able to go back and figure out, are there adaptations to these things? Can I add a voice to that instrument? Or do I have to get it replaced with something that talks? So yeah. But if it's something simple like I think most times you need details on these things, because it depends on what they tell you in the description, I guess. If the person says, "Yes, I have a heart condition. I have congestive heart failure or congestive heart condition," and then they go ahead and say, "Well, and it slows me down in the afternoons. I get pretty tired in the afternoons. I really am not supposed to lift anything much." Well, there isn't too much more you really need to know, unless you're a doctor. So they've kind of given you the details. But if they haven't said those things, then you kind of do need to ask, because now you know that you probably shouldn't be doing your lesson what time of the day? In the afternoon. You try to set this person up in the morning. So that's one of the reasons you need to ask this question. This next one's real important too. And accuracy of knowledge of eye condition. It's extremely important because 8 out of 10 people don't know.
Where's that? I'm just looking at the form and I don't see that one yet.
It says
It's on
accuracy of
there.
eye condition. It's like
It's right below.
it's right after the one I just read.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry, I missed it. Sorry.
And I would ask this question. The easiest way to get people talking is this. Could you describe the first time you noticed any eye problem? Just tell me about it. What happened? Oh boy, sit back and get ready for 10 or 15 minutes. you might think if you haven't been around blindness and low vision, you might think that you should stay away from that question. Absolutely not. 99 out of 100 people are sitting there going, no one ever wants to talk to me about it. Everybody avoids me. The family don't care. They're tired of hearing me. They don't want, and nobody wants to talk about it. You walk in the door and say that, and they jump up on the table and start giving you the Clarence Darrow thing, man.
Do you find that a lot of people really, I mean, I can only speak of my mother-in-law, but she really doesn't understand it.
No, they don't. I'm telling you.
You know, even herself, so sometimes she's
And
been
if you got
surprised.
something, you get a situation like, okay, I have RP, for example, and a person's maybe 50 or 60 years old, and they've got 20 degrees of field left or something, and they're thinking that they're going to lose their vision in a couple of weeks or something. Well, hardly anybody with RP does that, especially if it didn't have an onset until they're that kind of age. You know, you'll learn that kind of thing in the eye course. If you know about it, you can give a simple answer. If you don't, you shut up and say and find out. You know, you go back to your office and ask about it and figure out what you should tell them and what you shouldn't. But most things are very simple misperceptions that you can clear up pretty readily. You know, there's all kinds of people who think they're seeing things when they're not seeing anything. They're really seeing things, but they're inside their brain. We talk about this in psychosocial aspects of blindness and low vision. But even if you have macular degeneration or any other, anybody not know what a scotoma is? You said you didn't. Anybody say yes if you don't know?
Yes.
Okay, basically it just means the part of your eye that isn't functioning. It's basically non-functional in that particular area.
Blind spot.
Yeah, blind spot, whatever.
I knew I just forgot.
So basically, whenever anybody has such a thing as that, it has weird consequences. Sometimes you're still seeing around it normally, but what you're seeing in the middle of it is weird, like blue colors, and sometimes people see weird shapes that remind them of their mother's face or their dog or their God knows what. Because I have a face all the time that pops up. It looks, unfortunately, like a skeleton face.
Oh.
Yeah, it's cute. No, it's not. But if you hear people say stuff like that, you know, you're going, this guy's whacked. Well, not, because that kind of stuff happens everywhere. And so if you understand that, it's very easy to say, oh man, you know, I understand that. Lots of people have that kind of thing. You can't just say it isn't your mother's face, but you can say how common it is. You're not seeing things. That kind of stuff happens all the time.
Your brain is trying to fill in what it's missing, right?
I don't know what it is. I mean, I think it's, to be honest with you, I believe it's nothing more than random shapes that end up looking like things.
Kinda like
That's what it is. That's what it is in my head. I haven't done enough study to tell you what it is in the general population. But I think it's nothing more than random shapes that you start to. It's like that. What's that? Rorschach.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a Rorschach test where you see a shape and you start interpreting it well. Same thing happens. You see it all the time. This thing in my head doesn't look anything like a skeleton. It actually looks like it looks like an eye socket with white around it. And I've morphed it into a big eye skeleton peering out and one eye at me. Leave me alone. Anyway, that kind of thing. All kinds of misperceptions. People think they're going to lose their vision with things that probably aren't going to take it. It's easy to reassure people. Lots of people, especially about macular degeneration, they'll hear on the radio that So they've got this dry kind, and they hear that the laser beam saves all kinds of people's vision, so they think that that's gonna be their salvation. I mean, obviously, don't break bubbles, but you also don't. Once you get to know people, you can talk about that kind of stuff. It's not right. Anyway, all kinds of misperceptions about eye, and you can almost always find them out by asking kind of two questions. One, if you just ask them to describe how they first noticed it,